And for more football conversation, the first full weekend of the NFL preseason. Andy, how you doing today?
Good, Josh. I thought you were going to segue it. Speaking of old guys, here's Andy McNamara. Like, oh.
Well, we're like the same age, but
yes.
the difference is that you have young Andys running around and I don't. But
yes.
the premise is still the same, which is if you don't plan for success,
yep, you don't succeed.
Right. It's
absolutely.
Like, so like it goes with everything in life. You got to have a system. You got to have a plan. I have a whole procedure when I leave the house. I put one item in the car before another for specific reasons. That we don't forget anything. I take care of my laundry in the morning. I got my coffee I leave the house with. But if you get out of that rhythm, if you get out of that system, you are DOA.
Yeah, it throws you right off. And I think that segues nicely, Josh, into the NFL preseason, because what are NFL teams and players? Routine, right? Preparing for success, preparing every type of situation in practice, in training camp, in preseason, so that when the games count, you're ready to go. And Eagles play tonight. I don't think the starters are supposed to be seen any time, really. But I'm very intrigued with like Sean Mannion and how his play calling sort of goes, because he's still really young coach.
It's funny because what I saw last night, who looked like he was not ready to succeed?
Who?
Was Tua down in Atlanta. I mean, Kevin Stefanski either has a larger uphill battle than we all realized, or he and Tua are just not connecting, because Tua did not look like a man who wanted to be on a football field on a Friday night.
Dude, like it's Tua. The thing is, Tua is one hit away, as we know, from his career being over, right? I can't even imagine the headspace that would put you in and where it might pop up. And you're in the preseason in this situation. Like Kevin Stefanski, no joke, Josh, he could be a one and done. The two-time coach here could be a one and done. Look at the quarterback situation. Michael Penix Jr., what was the knock on him coming out of college? Injury prone. What is he now? Injured. Tua. Injury prone. Look terrible. Behind those, if those two go down, you go to Cooper Rush, who actually was like an okay backup in Dallas. But oh man, like if we're looking fantasy football upside, Josh, like I think that dings everybody, including Bijan Robinson, who's supposed to be the first or second overall pick in fantasy drafts. Because Josh, let's say you end up with Cooper Rush, wouldn't you just stack the box if you're an opponent against Robinson all day? Isn't that the plan? Like this team could go south real quick.
And listen, I think that is the key. If you're someone who's preparing for your fantasy football league, you have to have, this is why you don't have fantasy drafts early in August.
Absolutely.
This is why you wait and see, you gather more information, right? And so, by the time we get to the end of August, those Falcons players may have been first, second, third round picks. Mm-hmm. Outside of Bijan Robinson, those guys may now be 9, 10, 11 round picks.
No question. And that's a great point. You pay attention to these preseason games. And it's like the NFL Combine for draft picks. You take it as part of the information package. Now, Tua stunk. Now, if you put Tua in a real game, when it counts, maybe it is fine. But what we have to go to right now in Atlanta is that he looked terrible. The offense looked terrible. The offense looked very much like what it was last year with the Cleveland Browns, almost dead last in the NFL, if not last. And so that has to make it. So, okay, you got 2 more games. All right. Well, how does the offense look at the end of that? Does it improve? Does it get worse? Because you're right. This significantly affects Drake London. I hope you get competent quarterback play, because if you do, I think Kyle Pitts Sr., with Kevin Stefanski's love for using tight ends, I think could be an absolute stud. But Josh, if you end up with the Tua that look like that, or Cooper Rush, or God forbid, Jack Strand, who's number 4, yeah. like no bueno on any Falcons outside of Robinson. And even then, you're going to be taking a hit if teams are going to be stacking the box against Robinson, who's still going to be excellent, but not first or second overall excellent if the quarterback's that bad, right? It's all things you got to keep into account.
And also keep into account if you're someone who, not just for fantasy football, but just NFL projections in general, right? If you're someone who's sitting there and saying, hey, who's going to win the NFC South?
Mm.
I don't think anyone's walking out of this weekend thinking it's going to be the Falcons, right? I mean, the way that preseason, and I'm not saying preseason says everything.
No.
We're not saying that at all here on 97.3 ESPN. But what we're saying is Andy and I always look at preseason as part of the overall information package. And, you saw last night the first set of preseason games, and throw the Hall of Fame game in there as well. Listen, if you do your job in preseason, it probably says a lot about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Look at Malik Willis. He marched down that field with a mediocre Dolphins team and got them into the end zone. Like, that was like clockwork for that guy. And I don't think anyone thinks the Dolphins are going to be a great football team this year. So if you have a team like the Falcons, Andy, right, and they're sitting there and they're maybe like on that fringe and they can't do that,
And that's a very interesting point you bring up, because it's almost like the negative tells you more about any positive in the preseason. Defenses are vanilla. They're not going to be showing you anything. So if you have your starters out there, whatever combination that is, and you don't succeed, the negative to me is more telling than positive. If you go out and you walk down and you're, looking great, like look at Drew Aller for the Steelers, right? 158.3 whatever QB rating. You can't get any higher. Great. Now, does that mean that Drew Aller is going to be able to go into a regular season game and do that? It does not say that. But what it does is it shows the guy's picking up and learning and getting it done against a vanilla defense. What it tells you about the Falcons is, oh boy, Kevin Stefanski has a lot of work to do. And we have to also remember this. Preseason is used to try things out, Josh, right? So from seeing the Atlanta stuff, I don't think this is the case for them. But in some cases, teams will try things out. Hey, we want to try these different formations out to see how it works. And if it doesn't succeed and looks bad, oh well, but you're trying things out in live games and action. So that's another thing we might not know of. We're trying out X, Y, Z just to see how it looks. And that's when the time to do it in the preseason. So it's just, again, something else to keep in mind. It might not all be as it seems up front when you watch these offenses.
Talk with Andy McNamara here as we do football conversations each week here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN, of course, at AndyMC81 on the X platform, AndyMC Sports on Instagram, and check out all of his football and coverage and more at millions.co. Just search Andy McNamara to like and subscribe. By the way, fresh. I got to say, if you're watching on the YouTube or on X, Andy is wearing probably the freshest, cleanest Browns like polo I have ever seen in my life. I mean, that thing, I would wear that. Company man,
right? Yeah. I'm trying to, come on, Mr. Haslam, look, clean up nice. Yeah. This is a very nice official Nike Browns brown shirt, got to roll through the gear. People say, Andy, why don't you pick a new team? 90% of my clothes are Brown stuff. I'd have nothing to wear. I'd have like 3 shirts and jeans. That's it. So that's partly why.
Speaking of the Browns, I do have to ask you about them because this is getting a little bit weird with the whole who's going to play quarterback, who's not going to play quarterback. And, I was watching, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I was for them watching it. But started to watch the quarterback show on Netflix. And, they obviously whatever happens for this season was last season. Well, Joe Flacco started the year on the Browns last year. So a chunk of the season is Joe Flacco on the Browns. And I'm watching the interactions that Flacco has with Shedeur Sanders. And I got to tell you, Andy, Shedeur Sanders, just based on how he handles his teammates, should be the starting quarterback for this team. There is nothing redeeming about Deshaun Watson, but they insist that they're going to have a quarterback competition in Cleveland. Man. And I'm just thinking, no one in their right mind except Jimmy Haslam thinks that Deshaun Watson should get another chance in the NFL.
Well, and even Jimmy Haslam the previous year said, a big swing and a miss, and we move on. And then he attended Deshaun Watson's wedding, and Browns fans are like, all right, we're done with him. Nope, he's there. Don't forget, too, there's still $89 million in dead cap money to spread out over the next 2 years after this. So you're still going to have Deshaun Watson in your life one way or another. Shedeur Sanders, super likable. By all accounts, tremendous teammate and liked. Now, I will say this to Deshaun Watson, despite how much I do not want him to play, apparently, last year when he was out with the Achilles, was an incredible mentor, teammate in the classroom, putting in the work, and great teammate. So I'll give the devil his due on that. He wasn't sulking, wasn't prima donning. He was in there doing the work. They feel that needs to be rewarded. Josh, I don't know why you would on a guy with the last contract who is not going to be a part of your future, why you want to give him time. Now, the truth of the matter is this. In Cleveland, you see at least 3 quarterbacks play every year. At least. Usually 4. So both guys are going to play. So it almost doesn't matter who starts. I think what they're going to do is this. Browns' first 2 games of the season are on the road. Game 3, the one I'm going to week 3 against Carolina, is the home opener. I think they're going to put Deshaun Watson in the first 2. See how he looks. Can he stay healthy? Does he get injured right away? And maybe you can make a switch to Shedeur for the home opener if things go really bad. Because I'll tell you this, man, and I'm going to be there, and I'll be included in it. I'm going to boo the you-know-what out of Deshaun Watson if he stinks the first 2 weeks. I'll tell you that. I was at the game, his last game played. This today at 1 o'clock, Josh, is going to be Deshaun Watson's first football game in 665 days. I was at that game where he tore his Achilles. I was down there October 20. 665 days. And we're going to see. I put a video out on millions.co/Andy McNamara saying, as silly as it might sound with the preseason, this is the most important preseason game of this NFL offseason and the most important game of Deshaun Watson's career in the past 2 years. And it's a preseason game. Because, Josh, if he goes out and he sucks, like we just said, that tells you more than if he does well.
It really does. And I think what's fascinating is that, a lot of people keep talking about the 2027 quarterback class, right? And I think that what's going on in cities like Cleveland and Atlanta, I'll throw Pittsburgh in there just because Rodgers says it's his final year, right? We'll throw the Jets in there because they got Geno Smith who didn't play last night. Apparently, he had a migraine or his neck was hurting or something. I don't really know. Who cares?
He's like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake.
But whatever team you want to point to, there's a lot of teams around the NFL. Oh, Arizona's another one that
would be Miami too.
Miami too, sure. But there's a lot of teams I think are maybe more willing than usual to let their quarterback situation play out. I'm not saying, a Tanner McKee for the Eagles or a Dylan Gabriel or someone doesn't get traded if a team needs like another body. But right. I don't think that you're going to see teams hyping guys up.
I got you. Yeah. To try to use his trade bait, unless you have somebody, a Super Bowl contender, as a guy go down. Like let's say LA, right. Let's say Matthew Stafford, for example, right? Then you'll probably see some hype up and all that. But for the most part, Josh, as we know, if you're a Super Bowl contender, your starter goes down. Come on, you're done. Unless you're the Eagles and it turns into Nick Foles, of course, right?
Well, at least Nick Foles had a background.
Yes, he had a back. Exactly.
I feel like can we just bring this up really quick? All the quarterbacks except for one who came in and won a Super Bowl as a quote unquote backup all had extensive starting experience before they came in. Okay. Nick Foles had that 28-2 season, where he was electric. Okay.
Yeah.
People forget Trent Dilfer led the Bucs to multiple playoff appearances with the Buccaneers before he ended up becoming the backup and then later the starter with the Ravens. And Doug Williams, didn't work out too well for him because Tampa was horrible, but he was a starter in Tampa for years. Then he ended up in Washington and took over for, what was it, Jay Strader, I think, back then. So really the only guy who didn't have extensive starting experience before he came a starter was Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these teams, like you said, play it out, because then you get, and this is why I'm frustrated why the Browns don't play Shedeur from day one. Again, I think he's going to get enough playing time, but to see, okay, play it out. Now Shedeur Sanders pops. Hooray. Right? Okay. Hey, we got a guy. Now we got an extra first round pick for Myles Garrett. Pick the best players, build the team up even more. If he doesn't, then you got that extra first round pick. You can try to, finagle your way around however to get up. Now, the problem is this, Josh, as we know, it seems almost every year is the quote unquote best quarterback draft class, right? This time last year, I can't think of one person. You have people who say they did. I don't know. I didn't hear it. No one was talking about Fernando Mendoza. No, zero people were talking about Fernando Mendoza. It was Cade Klubnik. It was Nussmeier. 1-2. Oh, yeah. The year before, it was going to be Quinn Ewers and Brock, who's in Arizona now, right? Like, there's something that goes different every year. 2018, no one saw Josh Allen rise out of nowhere. There's going to be a quarterback we're not talking about today that come December, it's, that could be the next guy, right? That could be the next guy. Carson Beck, not Brock. Sorry. Just popped in my head.
You really confused me there, bro.
Yeah, I was thinking
who
Brock.
Is he talking? Who's Brock?
I was thinking
Brock
I was thinking wrestling. I was thinking Brock Lesnar.
Brock Osweiler? Like, what are we talking about here?
I was thinking Brock. I was watching some wrestling before. I was thinking Brock Lesnar.
How about Brock Berline? Remember him?
Oh, very vaguely.
I think he played for the U and somebody else. I'm gonna look it up.
But my point is this: it's like the guys you're expecting right now could very well not be the guys, and multiples can go back to school. Remember, Arch Manning does not have to come out. Both his uncles, Peyton and Eli, 3 years.
Yep,
starters. He doesn't have to come out. And I'm sorry, everyone want to crown him as the assumed guy. The way he started last year, I know he finished well. Arch Manning has a lot to prove to me. I'm not crowning him. Julian Sayin for Ohio State, little undersized. He's got a lot to prove, and he can go back to school, right? I think Dante Moore might be one of the more interesting guys because he was on the bubble.
I'm a Dante Moore guy. Yes.
I like them. Because Josh, him and Mendoza in the fall were, and then Mendoza won. Then it's like we start, and he made the right choice to go back. If he can take a step forward, there's going to be a real case that Dante Moore could be the first overall pick in this draft.
Absolutely. By the way, Brock Berlin was at Miami in 2003 and 2004. So
wow.
The fact that I remember that says probably more about me than anything else.
That is interesting. Yeah. But you mentioned the different teams that need quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett's a great placeholder for Arizona. You got Minshew back there, and Carson Beck flashed a little bit sometimes in training camp. That's the thing. That guy 2 years ago was supposed to be the dude. And then he wasn't. He went back to school. And he was a later round pick. So everything can change. And you got names coming. CJ Carr and Notre Dame, super interesting to me too. Lenora Sellers, the physicality. I'm afraid he's going to be like an Anthony Richardson, big bodied athletic guy, but can't throw. But as many interesting names as there are in college football quarterbacks right now, Josh, there is no guarantee that any of them or fewer than we expected come out to be top picks. This past year was Fernando Mendoza. That's it. It's there's so much intrigue, and that's why there's always that danger. You have to be lucky. Are you bad in the right year to get that true quarterback?
And that's why, to bring it full circle, the Tanner McKee conversation tonight is going to be interesting because 2 years ago, when he had that preseason game against the Ravens, people were losing their mind. They were like, who is this guy? Look at this guy's arm strength, and he was getting to the point where there was a contingent of Eagle fans who were almost like bench hurts for McKee, that's how the infatuation became. Well, McKee right now is in a battle for the backup quarterback in Philadelphia with old Andy Dalton, to the point where there's conjecture, Andy, that because this new offense doesn't throw the ball deep as much as the previous offense, that McKee is struggling to execute in the offense, which I am now extra curious to see what he does tonight.
Yes, absolutely. And I like the curiosity of Tanner McKee, and I'm with you. I want to see what he does tonight to see how he's picked things up, right? If he hasn't, still has 2 more games to do it. But if you're a championship caliber team like the Eagles are, if you fancy yourself a Super Bowl contender, which the Eagles do, I want the veteran to back up my quarterback. Tanner McKee, fun story, not the time. I know if Jalen Hurts go down, Andy Dalton can be a competent administrator of that offense. I know he's solid. I know he can do. He's not going to wow you. But he can administer. He can get you where you need to go potentially for a stretch of time. Tanner McKee's a total wild card. If you're a Super Bowl contender, I don't want questions. I don't want that. Tanner McKee's a guy you want to see on, in Arizona or somewhere where it's like, hey, throw it in, see what he can do. Not on a Super Bowl. I want the boring veteran that can get me through a stretch if my starter gets injured.
So basically, you want Old Yeller.
I want Old Yeller. Andy, keep him there, pop him out there. And when you don't need him, well, he's always behind the barn.
He's Andy McNamara at AndyMC81 on the X platform, Andy MC Sports on Instagram. Of course, he's also the host of the Sick Podcast covering the Cleveland Browns. And he is also going to be found on millions.co. Andy, tell folks we got going on there.
Oh, man. Well, Josh, I am doing every NFL team, 32 fantasy football previews. Each team gets their own fantasy preview video. That is up now, almost through all of them. But you can check them out now. Millions.co/Andy McNamara. Click follow. Listen, I love my 97.3 listeners here when we come on. Do me a favor, click follow there. And then check it out. We got the Eagles up there already. I go division by division, team by team. So get ready for your fantasy football draft and check it out, millions.co/Andy McNamara.
Andy, great stuff today, my friend.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.